The FIFA World Cup is in motion. Fans across the world have gathered in the stadiums of Qatar to watch the world's best players duke it out. Football fans are anxious to find out which country will take home the World Cup this time. Under the surface, Qatar's World Cup has been mired with a ton of controversy, ranging from human rights violations to general incompetence. Qatar's bid for the World Cup was knee-deep in controversy. There were a lot of bribed FIFA execs and wrongdoing involved. A few months before the winning bid was announced, 2 out of the 24 members of the FIFA committee responsible for choosing the next World Cup host nation were suspended and subsequently banned. Leaked emails in 2014 showed FIFA officials accepted bribes. In 2015, the US Department of Justice accused FIFA officials of wire fraud and money laundering while trying to sell broadcasting rights for the World Cup. Later in 2020, the US Justice Department showed evidence that unnamed intermediaries had bribed FIFA officials to vote for Qatar. While no one can trace those bribes back to Qatar, many are skeptical about the integrity of Qatar's World Cup bid. 3 days before the World Cup, one reporter from Denmark was accosted by security guards on a live broadcast for trying to film. Rasmus showed the police his press badge and lanyard pass, proving he could film in Qatar, but the guards still threatened him and tried to break the camera.
We can film with this permit. This is the upgrade pass, and this is the accreditation. Okay. We can film anywhere we want. Okay. There are only, of course,
only for the Qatari. You have because the Qatar is
no. We don't need permit. But you can break the camera. You want to break the camera? Okay, you break the camera. Okay. Yes. So you're threatening us by smashing the camera.
Qatar's government later apologized, but this just showed how hostile Qatari's government were used to against the free press.
You ended up getting an apology.
That's true, and I got an apology on the spot. I also got phone calls and text messages from the Supreme Committee, and yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't know if I'm happy.
What's more, the most common staple of FIFA football games, the beer and alcohol, will be hard to come by this year. Qatari royals banned the sale of alcohol 2 days before the tournament began, an awkward decision since fans want alcohol. And one of its many sponsors, Budweiser, spent $75 million to be the official beer of the World Cup. This has prompted Budweiser to offer to give away an entire warehouse full of Budweiser beer to the winning country at the World Cup.
If for 3 hours a day you cannot drink a beer, you will survive.
Qatar has backtracked on their decision, maintaining the alcohol ban, but creating certain designated alcohol zones and specific hotels that are allowed to serve alcohol.
Of course, beer is, of course we need. Of course, it's a necessary thing. That's why we are waiting for the distance queue.
Absolutely. Very pricey.
Buying beer here, it's good for the environment.
Qatar's infrastructure problems were glaringly apparent the minute it won the bid in 2010 to host the 2022 World Cup. Qatar was a rich nation because of their oil reserves. Despite this, their country was small in size, so they did not have the right type of infrastructure to support a major sporting event. FIFA execs gave Qatar the bid because they believed Qatar would spend over $200 billion on infrastructure to build the 8 stadiums and hundreds of buildings and hotels to accommodate guests at the World Cup. This is a lot of money a host nation is spending compared to the previous World Cups. Unfortunately, even with that money, many buildings were unfinished. Some hotels were still under construction when the World Cup began, leaving fans scrambling for places to stay. The people brought in to build the infrastructure for Qatar has stirred up a storm of controversy from human rights organizations. Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, and most media organizations are condemning Qatar for exploiting their migrant workers. Unfair labor practices which resulted in overworked, underpaid workers made people question if the World Cup should be boycotted. Qatar practices the controversial kafala system, which gives Qatar ungodly amounts of control over the fate of migrant workers and their visas. Through the kafala system, migrant workers in Qatar can't just quit because there's always the danger that their employer can file an absconding charge, accusing the employee never arrived at work. If the employer does this, then by law the migrant worker becomes an undocumented immigrant, and Qatar's government can arrest and deport these migrant workers right away. Migrant workers are afraid to speak out against unfair workplace practices for fear of jail time. As a result, migrant workers stay silent when they are overworked, under under harsh conditions or if their paychecks don't arrive. Many migrant workers are in major need of money. Most of them have to get into major debt to enter Qatar. Workers have to pay up to $3,000 to recruitment agencies, and once they enter Qatar, migrant workers are paid only $250 per month, which means they'll find it difficult to repay the high interest loans they took on. Migrant workers are also exposed to harsh working conditions. According to a 2021 analysis by The Guardian, over 6,500 workers have died since 2010. The Guardian alleges Qatar has been covering up their migrant worker deaths to look good. Looking at Qatar's official data, only 37 people have died during the World Cup construction, a number ridiculously lower than the 6,500 worker death estimates. Qatar doesn't consider death by cardiac arrest or heart problems as worker deaths, even though death by heart problems are possible if employees are overworked under harsh temperatures common in the Qatar desert country. In addition, many are criticizing Qatar for its blatant discrimination of women. On the other hand, LGBT people feel the World Cup shouldn't be held in a country where gay relationships are considered illegal. Qatar hates homosexuality so much, their police force are seizing people's phones and asking World Cup visitors to strip if they have rainbow-colored clothes on them. One journalist from Brazil had his phone seized by the police when Qataris thought a flag representing his state, the Pernambuco flag, was an LGBT flag because it had a rainbow on it. Qatar's climate also spawned controversy for being too hot. Players can't perform under extreme temperatures, especially under the 100 degrees Fahrenheit heat Qatar is known for almost year-round. Qatar has built stadiums with large air conditioners to keep the temperature comfortable and safe for players, contributing to the carbon footprint of the World Cup, which organizers promised to minimize in their sustainability pledge. This won't be the first carbon-neutral World Cup after all. There were more problems in store. The World Cup dates had to be shifted to the colder but still warm winter months of Qatar, to many European football clubs' dismay. November is the time when European clubs have tournaments. With the FIFA tournament taking place at the same time, players won't be able to play, clubs will not be able to make money, and fans of the European Football League were furious. Traditionally, the FIFA World Cup is held between June and July, so soccer leagues are mad about the change in dates, but there's nothing they can do. England's Premier League, Spain's La Liga, and Germany's Bundesliga have all announced 2-month breaks so their players can participate in the World Cup. Some specific World Cup visitors to Qatar, like the Jewish people, are experiencing problems. The Jewish people don't have anything to eat because Qatar backpedaled on their promise to offer kosher food and Jewish prayer services at the World Cup. Qatar's reasoning was they couldn't secure the safety of the publicly praying Jewish tourists, which is very messed up. Former FIFA president Sepp Blatter told the Swiss newspaper that he regretted picking Qatar as the host. This man was the president who was previously accused of corruption and took bribes from Qatar so they could host the World Cup. Qatar's controversies are piling up, and its legacy post-tournament is under fire. Hosting the FIFA World Cup was meant to be a PR stunt to show off the best parts of Qatar, and it turns out the best parts of Qatar are far outweighed by the darker ones. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe,